Hello everyone and welcome to Moonlit Lioness Stargazing Sunday. Today I'm going to do things a little different. Instead of doing my story that I've been doing with the woman fixing the crack in her house, I'm going to do tarot card imagery. So we're trying to find what appeals to the audience, and the more feedback you give me through the comments, etc., the more you can help steer me into giving you something that you truly appreciate. So let's go ahead and get started with this week. Alrighty. So for the week of July 19th through the July 25th, we have our moon phase is here in front of us. I was looking for the quarter moon and it's not there. I think we're working toward a full moon, so I think we're in the third quarter moon phase. The moon is waxing, so we go from the beginning of the week with the nice, harmonious, beauty-loving, peaceful Libra into the middle of the week where we're into that Scorpio, passionate, obsessive, intense energy, into the end of the week where we are more into the exploring, optimistic Sagittarius energy. If you'll notice, right here in the middle of the week, when we have that third quarter moon, this is the time of Barbault's basket. It goes until the 22nd. So the Barbault's basket is from here to here. It's Libra actually and Scorpio. So the moon energy is Libra and Scorpio during this time. This is like the apex. Barbault's basket is like the apex of the year. You know, this is like the peak of the year, the icing on the cake. It's like the big event. I mean, it doesn't mean there's not other things going on. For certain there are, but it certainly is like a once in multiple lifetime events, and it's right now here for us to observe and experience. So I have a whole video separate from this called the tarot imagery of this moment, and if you're interested in seeing that, you can go look up that video. So I'm not going to get a whole lot into Barbault's basket in this particular video. I'm just going to do the other aspects for this week. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to, or not. I'm trying to do a page down, and we'll just do it this way. All right, so at the beginning of the week, we have this Mars sextile Saturn. I brought up a certain imagery that I want to bring up again because I think it's helpful, and that is the idea that astrology is a little bit like a clock, except you're going to have several hands. But you've got certain planets that move very slowly in the outer rim. This is Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and then you've got personal planets that move in the outer or in the inner part of the solar system, and that is Mercury, Venus. You could conclude the moon, I guess. It's a luminary, and Mars. And then you've got some planets in the middle that kind of take on the characteristics of both, and that's Jupiter and Saturn. So the outer planets are more kind of like the hour hands. They're moving very slowly around in their orbits. And when you look at it on the zodiac chart, they move very slowly. And then the personal planets are moving more like the minute hand. Or if you're like the moon, that's like the second hand. It's going fast, fast, fast. So the energy that we receive from those planets as they're moving around their orbits, the longer it's in one place, the stronger that energy is going to be, but you also have to take into account the proximity. So, Mercury, for example, moves fairly quickly around, and so does Venus. So it's closer, but it also moves quickly. So the energy we experience is very brief. It hits you and then it's gone. It's that kind of thing. It's enough to trigger certain aspect points around the chart. And other planets, so they're slow-moving planets, those hour hand planets. And then you've got, like I said, the outer planets who stay much longer in a certain position. but they're much farther away. So you get the energy for a longer period of time, which is why they call them generational planets. I mean, they stay in one place for a long, long time. Anyway, I don't want to get into a lot of information, but hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of kind of how the planets move. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do some tarot card imagery for our aspects for this week. So today we're on Sunday today, we are experiencing Mars sextile Saturn. So if you look at the chart here, you can see here's Mars, and it's in the sign of Aries, and then you've got, I'm sorry, that's not Mars. That's Saturn in the sign of Aries, and then you've got Mars in the sign of Gemini. And then Mars here rules the sign of Aries. Every sign has a planetary ruler, and the ruler of Aries is Mars. So Mars and Aries both have similar characteristics. Mars imparts its traits onto Aries, and so Aries has a lot of those qualities. Doesn't mean they're exactly the same, but it has a lot of those qualities. So anyway, so what is Mars in Gemini? Mars is that is action and effort and drive and assertion. It can be conflict on a negative basis. In this particular instance, we have a sextile, and sextiles are like the helpful acquaintance, which is what you see here in the middle, the sextile symbol, which is almost right. It's missing that lower, this line doesn't go all the way through, but it's a helpful acquaintance as opposed to a helpful friend. That would be a trine, and a trine is another blue line that has a triangle on it. Okay, it represents a 120-degree angle, where a sextile represents a 60-degree angle. So those are helpful aspects. And what we've got is we've got, this Mars in Gemini, and here's a card from tarot that actually represents Mars in Gemini. And what I would say is it actually represents more of the negative. But it can be, Mars is very action oriented. Like I said, it's action, drive, effort. And Gemini is your mental state. It's how you think and, how you process information and etc. And so, if you've got overthinking going on, which can be Mars and Gemini, then you could get yourself into this worry state. And that's what it's saying here, overthinking, worry, and anxiety. A more positive side of that would be, okay, I'm thinking about, it's where you're willing to put a lot of thinking power into something, so that it can be a positive thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. In this particular case, because I'm using the tarot card imagery, you're going to see this. So just remember, when you see this card, depending on how it's aspected, and here we can see it's not a bad aspect, then it might be more of a putting a lot of energy into thinking about something and helping you move forward, because you are able to focus and think, right? So that's good. Another thing we look at in astrology is rulership. So right here you've got Mars and Gemini, and Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. Just like Saturn is in Aries and Aries is ruled by Mars, Mars is in Gemini and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. They have similar character traits. So where is Mercury? Mercury is in Cancer. What is Cancer? Cancer is about our security. It's about what we nurture. It's about being protective, and it can be emotional, and it can be intuitive. It's, home and family and that kind of thing. So a lot of thinking is going into home and family and protecting ourselves, etc. And it's ruling all that energy going into our thinking. So a lot of the energy that is going into our thinking is along those sides. Is how can we protect ourselves? How can we have more security? How can we be more intuitive, or connect with family members? Or maybe it's just about the house. How can I make our house better? So a lot of energy there. And then sextile Saturn. The world in tarot is Saturn, and the emperor is Aries. So Aries, what's Aries? It's leadership, structure, discipline, authority, self-control. And then we've got Saturn, which is our structures, right? It's about our structures and our limits and our responsibilities, and just dealing with the 3D world and learning how to be in this 3D world. So when you've got these two in sextile, that means they're helping each other out. They're kind of like helpful acquaintances, but it only works when you're actively trying. So it's not something that's going to happen passively. That's more of a trine energy. A trine energy can happen if you're passive. Sextile energy you really have to be more active. So this energy, which is not going to be very long, because Mars is only at a certain degree for a day, pretty much, or a day or two, pretty much a day. It's not there for very long, so it's somewhat fleeting. And so you have this energy today to put some extra energy into your family, into your home, into something that you want to improve about yourself, or you want to make a difference. See, this person is making a difference and becoming more independent, becoming more of a leader. You're right, that kind of thing. So this is a day where you can, the winds are in your sails if your sails are pointed in that direction that I just talked about. Okay? All right. So the next few days, the 19th through the 22nd, we're having this Barbault's basket. So if you want to see more about Barbault's basket and see what I say about the tarot imagery for that, you can go and watch my video that I made just this past week called The Tarot Imagery of This Moment. Okay? And then we're going to go on July 22nd, the Sun enters Leo. So that just means the sun, which is how we shine, what our purpose is, our vitality, is moving from the sign of Cancer, which is what I just said. It's about being protective and emotional, instinctive, and nurturing. And it's moving into the sign of Leo. And Leo is about expression and identity and inspiring others and things like that. And AI has its own words up here for you. So, in this particular instance for the Chariot, it's a focused will, a direction, a moving forward to courage with compassion, inner power, heart-led leadership. So Cancer is very home-oriented and very, I wouldn't say very defensive, but I would say protective. That's why this, what they use the sign Cancer, the crab for Cancer, because it has a protective shell. And then, but Leo is more wearing their heart on their sleeve and being more dramatic and outward and trusting of others to accept their authenticity. It's about being authentic to who you are and just putting it out there for people. And that is kind of the energy we're moving into for Sun and Leo. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, where on July 23rd, the Sun will square Chiron. So here you can see in the chart, here's the Sun in Leo, and here's Chiron. It looks like OK, and it is in Taurus. This is the Taurus bull right here, and it's in a square. And squares are about challenge, obstructions, challenge, things that you have to work for or towards, challenge, conflict, and or turning point. I forgot my notes are right there on the screen. So that's helpful. So, let's look at the cards, the imagery of the cards. So we have the Sun in Leo, which in this particular case is, we have a pip card that actually represents the Sun in Leo, the Three of Wands. So here you can see in this particular instance where we're combining those two energies together, we've got vision, expansion, planning for the future, all this stuff kind of going on in this energy. And so you've got somebody who's trying to do that, but they're in a square, they're in a challenge area with this energy over here, which is square, it's the Chiron, didn't have to put square up there, but that's okay. Chiron and Taurus. Well, we don't have a tarot card for Chiron, so I did a little research to see what tarot energies were a lot like Chiron, and these particular ones came up. The Hierophant, Three of Swords, and Nine of Wands, which makes a lot of sense because Chiron is known as the wounded healer, and then from their wounds they teach. So they heal, they figure out how to heal their own selves, and then they go and heal other people based on what they learned from their own experience. So here's like the teacher, the Hierophant, and here's the wound, and here's the also there's somewhat of an endurance going on here, dealing with this long term and it's not like you figure it out in an instant. It takes time and effort and a lot of research to figure out what the problem is. So that's this sort of energy here with the Chiron and Taurus. And Taurus, this is the card for Taurus, the Hierophant. The Hierophant is the Taurus. Seeking wisdom, tradition, values, and beliefs. So when you've got this Chiron and Taurus energy, this need to fix a past wound and teach others from it, and a square from vision, expansion, planning for the future, it means that this could be holding you back from this, or it could mean that in order to move forward, I've got to fix this, or something along those lines. It's not an easy energy. They don't just flow together. It's something where there's a challenge that involves both of these energies together, and that's the square here. Okay, I show Mercury on here because Mercury also goes direct, and so that means the little number right here, 16 degrees, is not red anymore. On the chart, some charts show an R for retrograde. This particular software, Astrogold, it shows the number as red when it's retrograde. That means it looks like it's moving backwards in the sky. It's not really, but it looks like it is. And when it stations, where it's kind of slows down, stops, and gets ready to go the other direction, they call that stationing. And that moment, that a Mercury, which is typically going quickly like this, and so the energy is not in one place for very long, and it's fleeting. It actually slows down and concentrates in one spot as it stations and reverses direction. And so at that moment that it stations and reverses, the energy is concentrated because it's in that particular spot for more than the usual. And so that's a stronger Mercury energy than you normally feel. So whenever on the days that Mercury go retrograde, or the days, around day before, day after, right in the time, and the days that they go direct, that Mercury goes direct, and other planets too, but we're talking about Mercury today. Those days are the days where it's really strong. The energy of Mercury is really strong. So just wanted to mention that because Mercury is going direct today, or not today, but July 23rd. All right, so finally, on the world stage for this week, taking all of these energies into account. So with the Mars square Saturn energy at the beginning of the week, those are our two malefics of the astrology world, Mars and Saturn. So there could be, and when they're in square to each other, that can be an aggressive situation. So we could see aggressive communications, Mars being in Gemini, that's communications. We could see aggressive communications and interactions between countries as defensive measures, because that's Saturn is our structure. It's like our nation. And Aries is trying to rebuild something or create something new, and it can be Aries can be abrupt and abrasive sometimes. So that leads to what I said: aggressive communications, abrasive type interactions, etc. With the Barbault's basket, people are noticing that certain systems personally impact them and are starting to speak up for themselves and what they want. So they're starting to see, hey, you know what? When this guy over here makes a decision that, Here in this country we have something called food stamps or EBT or something. When just anybody and all illegals can have food stamps and EBT, that does ultimately affect me. That's my taxpayer money. People are realizing that certain things actually impact them, and so they're starting to notice and speak up for what they want, if you understand what I'm trying to say there. So I think that's kind of the thing that's happening with Barbault's basket. People are just realizing, hey, I really need to be involved with this because this is ultimately impacting me. And then we got where the sun enters Leo, and what does that mean on the world stage? Well, it means Leo, is more about world leaders and celebrities, so there might be a lot more news and drama around world leaders and celebrities during this time. Sun is in Leo for the month, so let's see what happens. It'd be interesting to see what happens with our world leaders and celebrities, right? And as soon as it enters Leo, it goes into a square with Chiron, as I just spoke about. And because of those wounds from Chiron, that square creates that challenge. So there could be a spotlight on world leaders and celebrities' problems, and maybe we'll see how these issues actually do impact us. Like, so that compromised guy in our government who's voting on things that we don't want it's really impacting us. So anyway, and he's doing it because he's afraid or blackmailed, and he's got to do it. That's his wound. That's his place. That those things are going to be spotlighted. Those things are going to be brought out in the open so that we can. There's going to be some resolution, a little bit of resolution going on there, but it is certainly going to be highlighted with the Sun square Chiron. In the Sun, it moves about a degree a day, and then it's not a long-lasting aspect. It's not an outer generational planet. So, these are things that kind of will come and go. But the Sun will be in Leo for the whole entire month, so we will, for the month anyway, see stuff going on there. All right, so what I like to do now is I like to go ahead and do a read for the week. And I'm trying to keep things moving. I hope it's moving along swiftly enough. So if I can go ahead and share my camera. There we go. Bring in my candle here. I love my candles. And we'll do the pyramid spread for the week. What is the energy for this week? What is the message for this week? Can you please show us what to expect this week and advice for this week? All right. All right, so this is the past, present, future. We've got the Seven of Cups as the past, the King of Wands as the present. That's very nice. And the Two of Pentacles for the future. We've got our hidden influence, the Eight of Wands. And then we've got our advice cards, Five of Swords and the Chariot. And then we've got our outcome, Five of Pentacles. Okay. So this week is not going to be like hot dogs, fireworks, and picnics type week. It's going to be a little more complex than that. So we've got the Seven of Cups, which is kind of like this. So we've kind of been in this space of, the Seven of Cups can be not unsureness, like we're not sure which way to go, we're not sure what decision to make, maybe because things are unstable here or there or whatever. So we've got a little bit of instability, a little bit of unsureness happening in the past that's leading to what the right now. Well, this is supposed to be for the week, so at the beginning of the week there might be some of this instability, and then it leads to the middle of the week, which is this King of Wands energy. So it's kind of like, this is a Leo card because you got the lion in the background, but kings are kings. They're the kings of their domain. They're in control. They're in charge. They're very confident with where they are. And so, this guy, he has a lot of confidence in his capabilities. He has a lot of confidence in what he can handle. So, I think while we might feel a little bit confused at the beginning of the week, we're going to kind of go into this place where we feel very capable. Now remember, when I showed you the moon phases, the beginning of the week moon phases are Libra. Now I don't equate Libra with being confused, but sometimes if you see too many people's points of view, it's hard to see your own, and that is a Libra fault. I know that because I'm a Libra sun. I can see lots of people's different points of view to the point where I lose my own. So, that could be something that's happening. And then the moon goes into Scorpio, where you get a lot more intense. You get a lot more, you can get a lot more desire to find the truth of the matter. So that's the king, and he's capable, and he's like, yeah, I can go and, find what I'm looking for, etc. And then toward the end of the week, we get more into this Two of Pentacles, which, things again are kind of a little bit unsettled, unbalanced. She's kind of juggling her, her more enlightened side with her more 3D side. Maybe she's trying to balance out what she wants spiritually with what she needs to do in the 3D world to just make things happen the way they need to happen. And the moon at this point is in Sagittarius, which is more the sign of optimism and happiness and exploration and things like that. So these aren't major arcana energies. They're not heavy, strong energies, but they are, fluctuating. They're going from a little bit of confusion to, yeah, I know what I'm doing, to back to, let's see, how do I balance all this out? How do I make this happen and yet still be able to do this kind of thing? So that's the energy of the week. And behind that, the hidden aspect is this Eight of Wands. So it's kind of like we're getting pummeled with things. So I could look at this on an energetic level and I could say, okay, we're getting pummeled with all these energies. I mean, did you see the Schumann resonance this past week? It's huge. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's something else altogether. I don't know. But we're getting pummeled with these spiritual energies, and maybe that's adding to the confusion and adding to, the juggling. I'm not sure. But then you could also look at it on the 3D level, and you could say, oh, we're going to get pummeled with lots of disclosure this week, because there is a lot of stuff being disclosed right now. We just got files dumped on us that are about the voter fraud here in the United States. So, that could lead to a lot of information coming out. So, and that can cause some instability just in general with people. Like, gosh, what am I supposed to believe? And how do I balance this out with what I thought happened, or what I thought was the way things were? So that's just the energy of the week. What are the advice to handle all of this energy being coming at us, and then the instability of it? So we've got the Five of Swords right here, along with the Chariot. So this guy, seriously, usually in the Five of Swords you see a guy holding a sword and he's like, aha, I beat them, and he won the little fight or whatever. And, it's kind of like a no cooperation sort of deal. One is going to beat the other. But this one here, this guy is like, yeah, I just have a headache. It's kind of funny. Can you see that? Yeah, I think you can. This is just giving me a headache. Yeah, it kind of makes me laugh. But anyway, so, it's swords, it's mental energy. Um, combating with others is probably not the way to go. It's going to give you a headache. So if you're kind of having these arguments with people about certain philosophies or what's going on, it might be giving you a headache. So I would say that it's saying, you've got the Chariot here, and this is movement and energy, and it's also the Cancer, which is, to some extent have your boundaries. Have your boundaries for how you handle things. Don't necessarily go into something that's going to give you a headache. um, and then with the speed here, this guy is really booking it with the speed. I think, the first thing that comes to my mind with that is get out and move. So I think, for me personally, I could be stuck on the computer all day trying to get this done, that done, and all this kind of stuff, but we really have to make a priority to move. I just took my son into the emergency room this morning because his back was bothering him, and he's fine. But it's like, sometimes when we're stuck on the computer all day, things can go wrong with our bodies because they're not made to sit all day. They're made to move. So, and it helps our mind feel better too. So I think just getting out and moving, taking a nice long walk, and moving our bodies can be really good for just dealing with the energies of the week, right? But yeah, also make sure you have your boundaries and don't get into arguments with people where one side has to win or the other, because it doesn't lead, it's not productive. Okay, and then finally the outcome. So we got this outcome card of the Five of Pentacles, and it's the card of disappointment. So I'm going to draw another card after this. So, but first I just want to interpret this card. Okay, this card is like somebody who, in the Rider-Waite, it's somebody who's spilled a couple of. No, we got the Five of Pentacles. It's the two people who are walking by the church, and they're not accepting what the church has to offer. And fives are usually points of conflict, momentary conflict, where you kind of have, they're like decision points, or things you have to deal with. It's like a square in tarot, right? Or not tarot, but astrology. It's like a square. It's like those squares in astrology. But you've got a moment where you got to handle something, and sometimes it's not easy. So the two people walking by the church, they have a choice to make. Do they go into the church or do they not? And they decide not to go into the church and keep on going. In this particular instance, you've got somebody who thinks they're locked in a room, but they're not really, and they could choose to come out or not. But maybe she's choosing not to just yet because she's got something she needs to work out for herself. So me noticing that at this time means that is part of the message or the outcome, is that maybe what we need is a little bit of quiet, a little bit of meditation time, a little bit of alone time, where you just kind of work out some things for yourself, in order to find a better outlook, because it all is going to be good eventually, right? It's all going to be good. And this tells you right here. So this is a card, an additional card I drew. If you look right here, it's going to be good. We've got the Ten of Cups, and I'll draw one more here, and the Hermit. Okay, so here you've got the happy family. Everything is going very well. And here you've got the Hermit, where somebody, again, like I said, alone time where you can kind of meditate and think on the world and find that positive outlook in spite of everything that's going on. That positive vibrational energy is going to be what helps bring the positive to you. It's going to be what helps to bring the positive to the world. We all need to do that as much as we possibly can, because that is what we're here for, right? This community, we're here to help raise the vibration. So let's do that this week. I think we're all going to be able to do that this week. And these energies are not major arcanas. They're smaller energies. So I think we will ride them out without any difficulty, and we will be the better for it. Okay, well, I hope you liked my Stargazing Sunday. And I'll have videos out this week when I see things that are interesting. Let's see, what's the word? And I will have a What's the Word Wednesday. Or will I? Yes, I will have a What's the Word Wednesday. So you can watch for that. And until then, I will see you next time. Take care.